more discussions than I can recall, the number one teaching of Jesus most atheists cannot support, and which is so abhorrent that they feel justified in throwing away everything else Jesus taught, is that Jesus supports slavery. The first time someone told me that Jesus taught such a thing, I brushed them off, thinking that they had made something up just to get a reaction from me. But I kept getting this same response from other atheists. Jesus supports slavery. So I asked them where they read Jesus saying anything about owning slaves. The Bible passage they quoted in response was Ephesians 6, verses 5 to 9. Here is what it says. Slaves, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart, as to Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service. Masters, do the same to them, and stop your threatening, knowing that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with him. Now, my first reaction was to point out that Jesus was not speaking in this passage. The letter to the Ephesians was written by the Apostle Paul, and despite what you hear being preached in every church around the world, Paul's words do not hold the same authority as Jesus' words. Paul said himself that if he or an angel from heaven contradicted anything Jesus taught, we should damn him to hell. So, has Paul contradicted Jesus in this passage? If he has, then I'll join the atheists in denouncing this passage as being totally immoral. I want to be very clear about this. Paul is not the foundation of the Christian faith. Jesus is. So if anyone is stuck on the idea that Paul supported slavery, maybe it would be better for us to just agree that Paul was wrong and leave it at that. But if you're willing to consider that Paul is not saying what so many think he's saying in this passage, then stick around a little while longer, because I think there's a really good lesson here which is consistent with what Jesus taught and which you may appreciate even if you are a non-Christian. Jesus' number one instruction to his followers was to love God and others, and he even included our enemies in that command. So it would be pretty hard to argue that a disciple of Jesus is allowed to do something so unloving as to support slavery when Jesus told us to love even the people we consider to be our enemies. Jesus also taught what is famously known as the Golden Rule, which says that we should treat others in the same way we wish to be treated. These teachings about love and the treatment of our fellow man are so clear that, as I said before, I would feel justified in throwing out any other part of the Bible that seems to contradict it. These teachings are the foundation for all true believers in God. As I was reading the passage in Ephesians, I noticed that most Bible translations do not use the word slave. They use the word servant or bondservant. Those words paint a very different picture than the word slavery. A person may be a servant for any number of reasons. Some people work as servants or servers in a restaurant. Some people work as servants in homes of wealthy people, either as paid employees or, as was common in Bible times, a means of paying back a debt. These people are referred to as debt slaves or bondservants. Some people serve as volunteers through charity outreach programs. In one way or another, we all work as servants to various people in our lives, whether it be an employer and an employee, a cashier and a customer, a doctor and a patient, a teacher and a student, and so on. Now, the concept of debt slaves or bondservants, which are the people to whom Paul was speaking in that passage of Ephesians, may sound a bit shocking to you, but it really shouldn't be that shocking, because we have the same arrangement in our society today. Debt slaves, in those days, would have spent most of their time doing menial tasks around the house or on the farm until they paid back their debt in free labor. And people today work for money to pay back a mortgage, a student loan, or credit card debt. The fact is, when you're in debt, you aren't really free to do much else with your time except to work at paying off that debt. That was true back then, and it is true today too. In fact, it's much worse today because in most cases in Bible times, you could only be in such a position for a maximum of 6 or 7 years, and then your remaining debts were forgiven. But today, most people are working to pay off their debt until the day they die. Yet most of us don't view this as slavery. It's just a normal part of life. The truth is that the whole concept of needing to work for money to survive is a form of slavery in itself. From the day we're born, we are taught that we must work for money in order to have our basic human needs met. We actually call this being a wage slave. Most of us are lucky to be free on the weekends to enjoy the nice things in life, and anyone who dares to go against the master, that is, money, and its system of economics, by quitting their job, is treated cruelly and considered to be a drain on society. This fear of and dependence on money keeps everyone slaving away for a wage. Jesus understood this, and he came to earth specifically to set us free from this slavery. He said, "You cannot work for God and money at the same time. So quit working for money and work for God instead. Go into all the world to teach people this kingdom of faith and love, where everyone helps each other freely. If you do that, God Himself will take care of your material needs. Don't believe the lie that you need to be a slave to money in order to live." And Paul actually backed Jesus up with some advice of his own. He said, "Did you become a Christian while you were in debt? That's okay. But if you can be free, either by paying off your debt or getting a pardon, take advantage of that and be free to serve God instead, and then resolve to never be in debt again." So, far from teaching people to own human beings and forcing them to do manual labor, Paul and Jesus were actively encouraging people to quit the monetary slavery system that we refer to today as the economy. The only acceptable form of slavery for Christians is one in which we are laboring to pay off our debts and be free from that slavery. And Paul says that if you're in that kind of situation, don't do your job begrudgingly. Instead, be a shining example of someone who wants to do the best job they can with whatever they're doing. Doing all things to the glory of God, he called it. That is what the passage in Ephesians 6 is saying. Now, I want to make one final, very important point, which is that even after we have been freed from the economic system, our instruction to serve doesn't stop there. It's just that we stop serving money and we start serving God and others instead by giving them our time freely in order to make the world a better place. When the disciples of Jesus were set free from serving money, He sent them out in groups around the country to show people this radically new way of life. He said to them, "You have received the ability to help people without paying anything. So help others without pay." Do you think this teaching of Jesus has the power to positively change your life and the lives of those around you? If so, please write to me if you are interested in linking up with others who have quit being wage slaves and are going into all the world to help people in practical and spiritual ways.